Picture this. You walk into a grocery store, thirsty enough to drink water straight from a garden hose, and there it is. A red label so iconic, it might as well be a global traffic signal. Coca Cola. A name so familiar that you barely notice yourself saying it anymore. But have you ever stopped, mid-sip, to wonder why the world's most legendary drink carries a name that sounds like it came from a 19th century botanist with questionable hobbies? Today, we're diving into the real story behind that name. A name born from exotic plants, medical experiments, business drama, branding genius, and a level of irony so thick it could be bottled and sold next to the original syrup. We start in Atlanta in the late 1880s, a time before regulations, before calorie labels, and before pharmacists needed anything as boring as a license to practice creative chemistry. And stepping proudly into this era is Dr. John Stith Pemberton, war veteran, pharmacist, inventor, and the kind of man who looked at a bottle of morphine and said, "Yeah, I can improve on this." After being injured in the Civil War, Pemberton became dependent on morphine. Searching for a way out, he turned to chemistry, specifically concoctions that blended medicine with mood-boosting ingredients. Enter Vin Mariani, a European wine infused with coca leaves that was praised by celebrities, politicians, and anyone who wanted to feel like a genius for 20 minutes straight. Pemberton created his own version of this hit product, Pemberton's French wine Coca. But just as business picked up, Atlanta passed prohibition laws that instantly outlawed the wine in wine Coca. So Pemberton did what any resourceful pharmacist would do. He reinvented it. He removed the wine, kept the coca leaves, added cola nuts for caffeine, mixed everything into a syrupy base, and marketed it as both a refreshing drink and a medicinal tonic. But while he invented the liquid, he did not invent the name. That honor belongs to Frank Mason Robinson, Pemberton's bookkeeper. Yes, you heard that right. The man in charge of the invoices created one of the most powerful and recognizable product names in human history. Robinson looked at Coca and Cola, saw potential, swapped the AA for AC because it looked better, and fused them into the rhythmic, musical, unforgettable pairing we know today, Coca Cola. He also designed the logo, the flowing Spencerian script that has barely changed in over a century. A bookkeeper created the name and branding of the most successful beverage in human history. If there were awards for employee who went way beyond the job description, Robinson would have swept every category. But while the name and logo were forming, the business behind them was falling into chaos. Pemberton, sick and struggling, sold pieces of his formula and rights to several different investors. It was a mess. But rising from this financial battlefield came Asa Griggs Candler, the businessman who would eventually take full control and transform Coca-Cola into a global empire. Candler understood something that few did at the time: the value of branding. He plastered the name everywhere: buildings, signs, notebooks, clocks, grocery stores, calendars, and even replaced the word refreshment in some towns with simply a Coca-Cola. It worked. People didn't just know the name, they trusted it. But here's where it gets beautifully ironic. As Coca-Cola's name became more famous, the formula behind it started to change. Throughout the early 1900s, the Coca component was reduced little by little. By 1903, the company removed the psychoactive alkaloids entirely, switching instead to spent coca leaves, processed to retain flavor, but none of the stimulant effects. Today, coca leaf extract used in Coca-Cola is handled under strict legal oversight in a single U.S. facility and contains zero cocaine. The cola nuts? Eventually, they faded out too. As production scaled, more efficient caffeine sources took their place. The original botanical ingredients that inspired the name became symbolic, not functional. And yet the name stayed exactly the same. Because by then, Coca-Cola wasn't describing ingredients, it was describing an identity. Through the early 20th century, Coca-Cola became tightly woven into American culture. Soldiers drank it during wartime. Families stocked it in their homes. Teenagers saw it as a symbol of fun and modernity. And everywhere you traveled, you could count on three things: somewhere to sleep, something to eat, and a Coca-Cola sign within walking distance. But the real explosion happened in the 1930s, when Coca-Cola helped reshape the modern image of Santa Claus. Before that, Santa looked different depending on the artist. Sometimes tall, sometimes thin, sometimes in blue or green clothing. Coca Cola commissioned artist Haddon Sundblom to create a warm, friendly, red-suited Santa for their holiday ads. The world loved it. That version of Santa became the standard. Let that sink in. Coca Cola didn't just join Christmas, it redefined it. From there, the brand built a global mythology. Advertisements shifted from describing taste to describing emotions. Slogans like, "It's the real thing," and "Share a Coke" weren't about flavor. They were about belonging, comfort, and connection. The name Coca Cola became a universal language. You could walk into a distant village, see a red sign with flowing white letters, and immediately know what it promised: a taste of something familiar. That is the power of a name that outgrows its origins. A name that no longer reflects ingredients, but experiences. A name that survives because it became a feeling, not a formula. And that brings us back to one beautifully poetic truth. Coca-Cola is the world's most iconic beverage named after two ingredients it barely contains. But the name stayed untouched because it no longer needed to explain what was inside the bottle. It only needed to evoke what the bottle represents: refreshment, nostalgia, warm memories, shared moments, a taste of something timeless. So the next time you crack open a Coca-Cola, take a second. Look at those looping letters drawn by a bookkeeper with a stunning sense of style. Think about the coca leaves that once gave the drink its spark. Think about the cola nuts that fueled its early punch. And then think about how both ingredients faded from the formula. And yet the name grew stronger than ever. It's not just a drink. It's not just a brand. It's a myth, a symbol, a story bottled and shared across generations. If you loved this deep dive into the surprising, outrageous, wonderfully weird origin of Coca-Cola's name, stick around. History is full of everyday things hiding wild stories, and we're just getting started. Hit like, subscribe, or whatever glowing button your screen is offering, and join me for more high-energy dives into the strange and fascinating stories behind the world's most famous names. And before you go, I want to know something. Tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. I love seeing these deep dive stories travel further than the original Coca-Cola syrup ever did. And while you're down there, tell me what topic you want the next video to explore. Which brand, mystery, invention, or historical twist should we uncover next? Your ideas shape the channel, and the next big story might come straight from you. See you in the comments.